In this session we'll be glazing our ceramic African mask. In the last session we did quite a lot of layering of our underglaze to make different patterns and different colors, and you should have your entire mask painted. You should have the sides painted. You don't need to paint the back, but you should have the sides painted and all of the decorations done, and the insides of the eyes and the insides of the holes. At this session you're going to need just the clear glaze. You'll have your whole glaze box at your table, but we'll just be using the clear glaze. It should say clear glaze on the top. It should say clear glaze on the side. When you unscrew it, it'll look something like that. And you're just going to start glazing like this. You've all seen this many times before, but what you're going to do is you're going to kind of scoop your paintbrush in so it's almost dribbling off, kind of using your paintbrush almost more like a spoon rather than a brush, and you're just going to take it and you're going to pat it on the surface. 1, 2, 3, and usually by the third pat you're kind of running out, so go back for more. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and just kind of start covering the surface. Nice and thick so we can't see the underglaze. Okay. And you don't want to be scrubbing back and forth with your paintbrush like you usually would for, let's say, a painting or something. You want to just be patting it gently on the surface so you're not disturbing the underglaze that's underneath here. You don't want to be scrubbing it back and forth, otherwise it'll turn into a big blobby mess and turn kind of brown and icky looking. So you want to keep those colors really nice and vibrant. And you're just going to take your glaze and paint right over the top of all your underglazes. The reason why they call the paints underglazes is because they go underneath the glaze. So you do the underglazes first, like we did, and then you put the glaze right on top of it. So for the little teeny holes that you're going to tie the raffia in later, make sure that you do a neat job on there. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't have so much glaze dripping through that you close up the hole. So in just a minute I'll kind of show you how to make sure there's no glaze in those holes. You can take your glaze and just paint right inside the eyes like this, and if you get some on your cardboard, that's totally fine. At the end of class or at the end of glazing, we're going to have to make sure we've got none on the sides here where it's going to be touching the kiln shelf so that it doesn't get glued to the kiln shelf. So I'll show you that right at the end. But for right now I'm just going to start, and I'm just going to keep kind of patting this on the surface. You want it to be fairly thick so you can't see the color, but you don't want it so thick that you have globs of glaze kind of running all over the place, because then that's just going to get really messy and sloppy later. So I mean, paint it on thickly, but not so thickly that it's all over the place. Okay. Make sure you get it inside the nose, kind of like you're picking his nose with the paintbrush. Okay. And I'm gonna just kind of keep working pretty fast here. If you have lots of dribbles up on the top, you can kind of just pull the glaze down gently with your brush as long as you're not smearing it back and forth. And notice that my mask here is still on the cardboard, kind of probably easier that way, just in case yours is not fired, or it's still very fragile because it is clay after all. So even though these are going to be fun to wear and look at, you do have to be gentle with them so that you don't break them, because if you drop it on the floor or if it falls off your face when you're wearing it or something, they will break. I can like almost 100% guarantee that it will break. So please be careful with that. Okay. Turn it so I can have this more of a flat edge here. Make sure you cover the entire surface so that every part has glaze on it, otherwise it'll look weird if some of it's left rough and unglazed and some of it has nice smooth shiny glaze on. Okay, so there we go. I've got every part. Check underneath the little cuts. Check inside of them. You want to have the whole surface glazed. Now, I did end up glazing right along this top edge here, and I'm going to kind of pull it off for you right now to show you. Okay, you can see that I've got most of it glazed right along the top edge. I guess I did miss a couple pieces here. But as far as this side edge here and this bottom edge go, we want to leave those pretty unglazed, because when this is sitting on the kiln shelf, we don't want this edge to get glaze on it. If you have a little glaze on the back of the eye or something, that won't matter. But we don't want any on this edge, because if it's on that edge, it will stick to the kiln shelf. Now, this part's going to be kind of funny. See all these little holes up here that I want my raffia in? I'm going to actually take my mask and kind of hold it here, and I'm going to blow into those holes. And you can kind of see how the paint or the glaze shot out onto the counter. But now you can see through all those holes. You want to make sure that you can see through the ones that you're going to tie the raffia through, because if you can't see through it, that means the raffia is not going to fit. So for another example, right down here on this bottom, those holes go all the way through, but the glaze is blocking it now. So I'm just going to, again, blow into the holes. Okay, now you can see through those holes. And we want to make sure we can see through those holes. Otherwise, you won't be able to fit the raffia through. Okay, so that is the end of our glazing of our ceramic